because the directional terms are different. So what's anterior? What's anterior? For us, anterior and ventral are the same, aren't they? So anterior is here. We could also call this cranial or rostral. Rostral means the nose. So this one would be, over here would be posterior. We could call it caudal. Over here, what would this be?
Dorsal.
Right, dorsal. And we could also call it something else. What could we call it?
Would it be superior?
Yeah. We could call it superior. And here we would call ventral and inferior. So quite different. In fact, sometimes, in a way, when we start talking about cat, it kind of just makes my brain fry a little bit. Just, for instance, I'll show you. Have a seat. And we'll just aspect of the Triceps Brachii, and we're going to work our fascial plane so that we can reflect that. Start here, basically at the elbow, kind of cut that, and then work backwards all the way to here. I'll show you that to you on the cat, and then we'll see the long and the medial head. See, we can see the long head of the triceps from either direction, but the medial head is best seen from the posterior view, okay? And it's hidden by the lateral head of the tricep. Then we see right up here, we'll see the what we call the brachialis. It's in the same compartment basically as the biceps brachii in terms of the flexion. There are two flexion muscles versus the extensors, which are the triceps. Okay, and I'll show you the difference. Now, if we go here, all right, we've got a little leaf-shaped muscle called the epitrochlearis. Epi upon the trochlea. So we start over here and we cut here and we start feathering that back along the fascial plane. And it's a very flat, very thin muscle, and we lift it backwards. We want to cut it here, and it's not a gross cut that you're just going to chop and a tendon and it's going to go back. You're going to have to work along the fascial plane underneath it, and it's not thick, it's thin, really thin, and kind of a leaf-shaped muscle, and then reflect that back. And when you do, you'll see the biceps brachii. And that's the one we're missing up here and we want to see. So lateral head of the tricep, long head of the tricep, and then the medial head of the tricep. The epitrochlearis we'll take back, and then we'll have the biceps brachii. Now in the forearm there is a lot of fascia, really dense irregular connective tissue there, tightly keeping all of the extensors. The extensors are on the back and the flexors are on the front, okay? So they're just tightly keeping. You're going to have to take some of that fascia off. And we need to know four extensors. Now, we're going to orient ourselves to this animal, which is a melange of animals. Okay, in the human, this will be the anatomical position, but cat. So radius here, radial side now here, right? Okay, the carpus is the wrist. And so here's how we can name some of these. Flexor, Carpi, Radialis. Okay, you get it? It's going to be on this side. It's on this side, on the cat. Flexor, Carpi. The carpus is the wrist. Radialis is here. These are three muscles right in a row. Then the Palmaris Longus is sort of a broad, flat muscle in between the other one, which is the Flexor Carpi ulnaris. So the Flexor Palmaris Longus is in between the Flexor Carpi radialis and the Flexor Carpi ulnaris on this side. And so a good way to kind of, when you're at home, you can just put up and go Flexor Carpi radialis, Palmaris Longus, Flexor Carpi ulnaris. Okay. But there's now a little triangular muscle right here, called the Pronator Teres, and it pronates. Okay, it's a cone-shaped muscle, and the widest part of the muscle is down in here. And then you'll have your Flexor Carpi radialis, your Palmaris Longus, and your Flexor Carpi ulnaris. So keep in mind where the radius and the ulnar side is. It'll be different in this position and different here, okay? You got that? Now, let's look at the posterior side, or the dorsal side here of this limb. If we do this, it's an extensor movement. These are extensor muscles, okay? So, and this is the wrist. So this is still, I'd have to start like here, okay. This is the extensor carpi radialis here. Extensor digitorum communis, extensor digitorum lateralis, and extensor carpi ulnaris. So we've got an extensor carpi radialis and an extensor carpi ulnaris on either side, and two muscles in between. And these muscles are just bing, 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 right after one another. You'll see them. I'll show them to you on DemoCAD, and you'll see them. The extensor carpi, the extensor digitorum lateralis is more lateral than the extensor digitorum communis. Okay, so the extensor digitorum lateralis and the extensor digitorum communis are between the extensor carpi ulnaris and the extensor carpi radialis. All right. So being extensor carpi radialis, extensor digitorum communis, extensor digitorum lateralis, and extensor carpi ulnaris. So my suggestion, because these are a lot of little muscles, they're superficial. The tendons are all superficial, and so what I'd like you to do is, you know, if you're just sitting around stoplights, go Flexor carpi radialis, Palmaris Longus, Flexor carpi, you know, ulnaris. So, and just Pronator Teres, stick that down here too. And then there's what we call the drinker's muscle. Because it is neither in the flexor or extensor compartment, it moves, if the hand is like this in supination, it moves it like this. That's the neutral position for this muscle. If it's like this, it moves it back here. That's why it's called the drinker's muscle. Consider taking a cup in your hand and doing this movement. That is why it's called the drinker's muscle. And so it's called the Brachioradialis. It originates here in the brachium, and it inserts into the radial side. And so it's kind of a little ribbon of muscle through here. This is the one I told you, try not to cut this. When we first skinned the cat, okay, I said try not to cut this one. It's neither in the flexor nor the extensor compartment. And that's all the muscles. Now, when we get to the lower limb, I've saved, it's the easiest dissection of all the dissections. So the first thing we want to do is first review every single muscle we needed to know that we learned last time, and then go over the ones we need to know today. And as a group, as you're either in 3s or in 4s here, you want to be sure, because we don't have any skin to take off, and the dissection isn't hard at all. So I want you to be constantly pointing to muscles and say, this is this, this is this, this is this. And the back is actually easy. We have 3 trapezius muscles and 3 deltoid muscles. So it's always going to be clavotrapezius, acromiotrapezius, spinotrapezius. Then it's going to be clavodeltoid. It's really a clavobrachialis, but you may call it a clavodeltoid. That will work for me too. Clavodeltoid, acromiodeltoid, spinodeltoid. So you see the kind of regularity here about these names. All right, so any questions?
So there.
Okay, so first we review. Always review. So what is this?
External.
Okay. What? Wait. What is this?
Internal oblique.
And that is?
Transverse abdominis.
Okay. And this is?
Rectus
abdominis. Okay. And this is?
Xiphi humoralis. Pectoral minor. Major. Pectoral antebrachialis. Clavi
Now, one of the things you're going to have to do before you start is you're going to have to, you should have already gotten underneath. This is a very flat, narrow ribbon of muscle, and you should have gotten underneath it and snipped it off at this end, as well as this is the clavobrachialis, this is our clavodeltoid, okay, right here, this one. And so, knowing that now, let's turn the cat over. And I think what I'll do is kind of turn it around so you don't have to look over there. Okay, so we have 3 trapezii. This is the clavotrapezii. This is the acromiotrapezii right here. Now, I haven't really totally dismantled it. If you cut right along here, don't do that. Everything will kind of fall open. And there's just bone really in there. So this is the acromiotrapezius. And this triangular area here, and usually I cut this just underneath here, and this is the spinotrapezius. So clavotrapezius, acromiotrapezius here, and spinotrapezius here, okay? Now, we've already called this the clavodeltoid, and right here is the acromiodeltoid, right here. This is a nice one, the acromiodeltoid. And then the spinal deltoid is right here, okay? Right there. I could have cut it a little bit more on this side. So clavodeltoid, acromiodeltoid, and spinal deltoid. Okay, so clavotrapezius, acromiotrapezius, spinal trapezius, clavodeltoid, acromiodeltoid, spinal deltoid. And then we have our latissimus dorsi. Okay, the latissimus dorsi. Wide muscle. Now, as long as we're here, why don't we look at what I said was the posterior proximal forelimb. What I did was, remember I said I cut it around the olecranon here, and I worked along the fascial plane to bring it back, to reflect it back. And so what I have here now is this is the lateral head of the triceps brachii. Here's the long head of the triceps brachii. Let's see if I have a little. Okay. Lateral head, long head, and look at the medial head of the triceps brachii right here. It's not very obvious, but here it is, and that's the best view, I think. Not the anterior view, but the more posterior view. Right here, right there. But right here, this is not the biceps brachii. This is the brachialis right there. Now, if you're looking for the biceps brachii, it's over here. It's over there on the ventral side. So, lateral head of the triceps brachii, long head of the triceps brachii, medial head of the triceps brachii, brachialis. And as long as we're here, and this, by the way, is the Brachioradialis, that thin ribbon of muscle called the drinker's muscle, okay, right there. And so here we have our 4 little extensors. Let's see, we're going to start here, 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 and here. All 4 of them right underneath here. So, which is this the ulnar side? Or which one is it?
Yeah,
Well, usually it's always wise to start always the same way, I think, like the carpals and the tars, especially the carpals. But because it's easier and you're right here, this would be the ulnar side. And so because they're extensors, we would say extensor, and this is the wrist, we're going to extend the wrist, extensor carpi ulnaris. Okay, extensor carpi ulnaris. And then we have the extensor digitorum lateralis. These are just bing, 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 one right after the other. Extensor digitorum. We're going to extend the digits of the fingers, not just the wrist, the digits. And then we have the extensor digitorum communis right there. And then right next to it, we have the extensor what?
Carpi radialis.
Right. So those are our 4 extensors, one right after another. All right? And to see all right, now, here's the epitrochlearis. This little leaf-shaped muscle was attached here, just like the lateral aspect of the triceps brachii was attached over here. So we kind of curve, you cut in the fascia kind of the tendinal insertions right here. It's kind of more like an aponeurosis really than anything else. And then you peel it back. See how thin this is? This is really thin. And so what you do is you look under the fascial plane and you just keep going. And so what we see here, this is the long head of the triceps brachii, just like we saw before. And this is the biceps brachii, right there, the biceps brachii. And you can't see, unless you wanted to move a bunch of stuff, you really can't see the medial head. Just so the medial head is right there, all right? So it's easier, it's more easily viewed on the posterior side. Now for the last part, the first thing that should jump out, if you get this fascia here kind of peeled back a little bit, is this palmaris longus. It has a very characteristic flat, kind of wide shape. You see it right there? Right there. Now, so we usually recognize that one first. But right here, in the crook, right here, is a cone-shaped muscle that's thicker at the elbow than it is toward its distal end. And this is the Pronator Teres right there. Right there. It's the Pronator Teres. And it's this tendon, this one, the more superficial tendon. And if you looked at these while it was before you kind of made any little scores, scoring along here, it would look like the palmaris longus was touching this. And it's right adjacent to the palmaris longus, but this is its tendon right here. So you don't want to cut these tendons. You want to leave them in place. And so this is the Flexor Carpi what? Radialis, the Palmaris Longus, and then this one right here, and it's got a kind of a characteristic shape. And try not. There's a deeper one there that we don't want. This is the what?
Lateral.
That's right, Flexor Carpi ulnaris. So Pronator Teres right here, Flexor Carpi radialis, Palmaris longus, and then Flexor Carpi ulnaris right here. And if you look at them, before you make any kind of scores between them, they actually look like they're bing, bing, bing. But once you get into it, you're going to get into all kinds of stuff here. It's not this one. It's not this one right there. It's not that one. It's this one. All right. So demo cats here. My suggestion is, if you don't already have the pecto antebrachialis cut here, well, first of all, you're going to have to get underneath it before you do the cutting, and you reflect that back. And also the clavobrachialis, make sure you score here and in the back here, and then you reflect that back. Now you're ready. Once you've done those two things, you're ready to flip it over and to look at the 3 trapezii and the 3, 1, 2, 3 deltoids. Largely it's recognition of shapes. This one we're really not even dissecting a lot out, but we want to get we want to get this. Oh, I forgot to tell you there's the levator scapula ventralis, and here it is. The levator scapula ventralis is right here. So when you cut this, don't go too deep because you'll cut it. There it is, the levator scapula ventralis.